Hello, hello. Long time no talk to. Then he said C, but that makes no sense. This is CKM. I haven't done a video for donkey's years, but I thought I might have another crack at another Let's Play. I've recently just bought virtually all the DLCs that have been coming out. Apart from maybe I haven't bought the Aztec one because that seems a bit stupid. But I bought the DLCs for Sword of Islam and also for the Legacy of Rome, and it's the Legacy of Rome one that I'm more interested in at the moment. So I thought I might do a new Let's Play, possibly if we start up down here in Barcelona. But what I wanted to do is I just have a quick. This is like a mini tutorial almost for me rather than for other, which is to look at one of the things that Legacy of Rome has added, which is this idea of retinues. So this is actually, if you look down here, these are the DLCs that are installed. So I've got Sword of Islam, which we're not going to be looking at, but the Legacy of Rome is missing, and there's a reason for that, and that's because I figured I'm just going to plough straight in and just show you some of the things that have changed with the Legacy of Rome DLC. So let's go to Desmond. Now I'm not going to play Desmond, but he's a good one to have a quick butcher's hook at because we'll see the sort of differences that there are with this whole retinue thing. So we're not going to go through the whole thing that we've done before. We're just going to first go straight to military. Now what's changed is you've got this little thing up here, okay, retinues, but it's greyed out, and that's because I haven't got the DLC installed, and I will restart shortly with the DLC installed. But I just wanted to show you one of the things that gets changed here. So we've got this bloke, he only owns this county. If we go to independent, he's just this guy, so all he's got is his direct holdings there from his domain, and then he's got his two little vassals down here where he gets some other troops from, right? So what he's actually able to raise at the moment is from his domain, and let's just concentrate on that one. Is 225. Okay, so where do you get that from? You got all this numbers up here. Now again, this is slightly badly laid out as before because they've included the 3 galleys that he can raise, but if you take those off, there's your 225, and that's actually made up of these 3 here. So there's a 60 light infantry, 150 heavy infantry, blah blah blah, light cavalry, right? We've all seen that before. Those numbers get improved when you start building and all that sort of stuff, right? So 225 is the number that he can build there. Now at the same time, and this will seem a bit stupid as to why are we doing this, but let's try one other thing as well. Let's look at the total number of troops available in his realm, and his realm at the moment is just this bit here, so bear with me here, right? Because at the moment there's 228 there, okie doke. There's a potential 122 there, okie doke, and a potential 132 there, okay? And I'll say okie doke one more time. So we're going to come back to why I just did that shortly. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to load up the game again, but this time with the DLC added, just to show you what this retinues bollocks is all about. Okay, so bear with me. Okay, and we're back in the room. Now we've reloaded, or I say we, you haven't done jack, I've reloaded, and as you see now the DLC's Legacy of Rome is running. So let's go back to Desmond and have a look at what's gone on there. So again, I appreciate that probably not any of this makes any sense at the moment, but I've been trying to work out this retinues bollocks myself, and it's been freaking me out. So let's try and remember, last time we had 225 was that number, but as you see now the number has fallen. However, the retinues tab, which was greyed out, is no longer greyed out. Okay, so what the fucking hell's happened there? Well, let's go into here like we did last time. Click on the holdings. That number was 228, if you remember. We have 3 galleys, so we're making it 225, and now it's fallen. So why is it fallen? Well, if you go on each one of these, you'll suddenly see used in retinues minus 11.996. So basically there's a hit being taken, okay, of your levy, and it actually applies everywhere. So it also applies to all of your vassals as well. They also take the same hit of 11 blah blah blah. So what the fuck's going on? What's retinues? So basically retinues are this idea that you now have a new type of army. Previously you had these levies which you raised whenever you needed to go to war. So you declared war on someone and then you raised your levies. While you weren't at war, you dismissed them. It didn't cost you any money. So they were just people who weren't professional soldiers. However, the retinues, I know I apologise up front because I keep calling them revenues, are 500-man standing armies. So they're like professional armies, which weren't very common at this time, but they were occasionally used. So the game has introduced these standing armies. So what's the issue with standing armies? Well, one of the things that it does is that it allows you to raise this retinue and they stay there. They're permanently available. What that means is, whereas before with levies, if you want to declare war, you have to make sure all your levies are stood down. With a standing army, you don't. So if you're going to declare war up here, you can move your standing army up and then declare war, and then move them straight in, instead of having to then, you know, raise all your levies down here and march them up. They're also therefore available on very short notice or instantly, in case someone tries to get fruity with you. Plus they can deal with rebellions, and you can effectively move them wherever you want around the map. So that's the sort of advantage with having these retinues. So therefore, what's the disadvantage with having them? Well, the first disadvantage is that they come out of your maximum levy size. As we saw before, without having this DLC active, this was 225. It's now 100. It's only 198, and the reason it's 198 is because you've got this levy used in retinues, 11.9996%, okay, which they've reduced. So that's an amount that's been taken off your total maximum levy, because you can still raise your levies as you were before, but now it's going to reduce the amount because there's a potential for you to have retinues. However, when you start the game as a small little earl, like we are here, Earl Murdoch of Desmond, there is a problem. Retinues are not available to every single person. They're actually really based on your status, and by status it really means how much realm you have. Because what you got here is you got this thing called this cap. As you look here, the usage of the cap, Neil will come back to that. The retinue cap at the moment is 58. And why does that mean? Why do you give a shit? Well, these are the different retinues, and there's 5 combinations you can raise. Okay, you can raise 400 heavy infantry and 100 archers, or 300 pikemen and 200 archers, or 100 heavy cavalry, and blah blah blah. There's 5, okay, and each of them has this thing, as you see there, a retinue cap usage. So that to raise those 500, you need to have a retinue cap of 900. According to this, we only have a retinue cap of 58. If you go to one of these others, that requires 800. That requires 1200. That requires 600 because they're archers and they're apparently not as good. And that one requires 1000. So in other words, you need to have this retinue cap breached before you can start raising these retinues. For fuck's sake. Right, so therefore, what the hell's that all about? Well, this is based on this retinue cap, and this retinue cap is basically trying to say we are you can only start having your own personal standing army when you have a big enough realm. So what does that mean? Well, have a quick look at this, how this works out. Where does that 58 currently come from? Well, what it does, it comes from the realm manpower 482. Now that 482 in the last section, I said I noted down all of the 3 total amounts of troops available in the realm. Well, they all total 482. That's why I did that. I was thinking ahead. Where does the 58 come from? Well, it's a product of 11.996 times the 482. Okay, we've seen that 11.996. It's over here as well. Okay, because that's the amount that's been used in the retinues. Okay, where does that 11.9996 come from? This is why this game's a bit of a nightmare, I think, personally. But again, this is what I've been trying to work out. That is based on the line above, average recruitment technology level, which of course is 1.2, and basically the 11.996 is 10 times the 1.2, except that it's been rounded, of course. So really, it'd be a lot easier if that retinue percent from technology said 12. Then you could see it's 1.2 times 10. Where does the 1.2 come from? Go over here, go to military organisation, and there you see the average of our military organisation is 1.2, and it's the average for your realm. So if we were looking at the king at the moment of England, that would be based on his entire realm, and what is and you can see what percentage he's going to have. His is a smaller percentage, 9.66595. That means the average for his realm of that technology is less than actually ours. So that's where those percentages come from. So to recap, in this confusing world that I've just created for everybody, with this new DLC, you have this idea of a standing army. So what's so good about a standing army? Well, they're there all the time for you. You don't have to disband them at any point. Once they have, we'll come on to their cost in a sec. Once they've been raised and fully reinforced, they're free of charge. So there's no monthly cost, and so therefore it becomes quite flexible to have them. What's the downside? Well, the downside is that you're going to take from the amount that you can raise comes out of the existing levies, which makes sense. You can't magic these troops from nowhere. The troops all have been trained up in the counties. They're either available to go into the normal levies, or you can try and get them to go into the retinue. So that your immediate downside for this bloke is he's got less from his domain. He had 225 last time, but now he's only got 198, and unfortunately, because he's not a big bloke, he's not allowed to actually raise any of his retinue, so there's not a big advantage. In fact, there's a disadvantage to it. What's the other issues with these retinues? Well, the way they're funded is the reverse of the army levies. If you remember the army levies, they don't cost you anything until you raise them. The moment you raise them, you start paying a monthly cost, or if it's your vassals, they start paying the monthly cost, and then they'll start hating you after a little while. With a retinue, it's the opposite. What you do is once you've reached this cap limit, say we've got our cap number there is over 800. That number will become active there. We can click on it, and it will start to build up this group of 500 soldiers. As you can see there, monthly cost is 1.6. So what you'll do here is you will actually pay 1.6 per month while they're being recruited and reinforced, because over time they will slowly build up. So what the fuck's going on there? And that sort of didn't really make any sense to me to start with. But I think the rationale is that if you're going to hire a professional army, then what you do is you kind of bring them over and you give them some land. You pay them some money so they can buy some land. That gives them a steady income. They're not actually working the land themselves, they'll employ people to, but they'll become landed, they'll get a steady income. They're not counts, or they're not earls, or they're not bishops, you're just giving them tiny bits of land. That means they're willing to then become part of your standing army, because you've basically given them a bit of land. So I think that the way this is working, I could be talking absolute bollocks here, but I think the rationale is that you want to recruit a standing army, so you get some guys, you go, look, come and join my standing army, I'll pay you some money as I recruit you, which you will use to buy land. Once you're recruited though, I'm not paying you any more money, I've given you some land, that's what you're going to live off, and then that's your wages effectively. Because I've given you some land, and that has happened in the past. I know certainly Muslim countries have done that before. Ottoman Empire, I know, definitely did that. They used to give all their cavalry land so that they would be available as a standing army. So it's not stupid. But it works in reverse. So therefore, what you do is you get a cost as it builds up. But once you hit that 500. In this case, or that 500 troops, the cost stops, and then you have 500 troops sitting there. So we'll have a look at this at some point in the future game when it becomes relevant. But what it therefore means is you're going to pay an upfront cost, but then once it's raised, you're laughing because you have 500 just sitting there. And obviously, the bigger your realm, the more of a cap you can get, and obviously the higher up you can get this number, the military organisation number, the bigger the percentage for this cap here. So you want to get your realm up, and you want to get that average recruitment technology level up. That increases the retinue percent from technology, and therefore that increases your cap. And once you get your cap above, this in this case 800, you can then start recruiting those. Of course, if you want to then recruit another group, well, in that case, if you wanted 2 lots of that, you'll have to have a retinue cap of 1600. So that's kind of where the limit, I guess, is being placed on it. So that was what I kind of wanted to have a show works with the retinues. Now I haven't actually played a game with them, so I'm not entirely sure how beneficial they are. I do know one thing. Let's go back here. As I said here, there's always apparently 5 types of retinue. The first 4 are normal. they're different combinations, always equaling 500. The fifth one is a cultural basis. So you might think, well, what's the difference? Well, basically, I believe if you were to recruit this group of heavy infantry, as opposed to if you go right up to the top, there is a heavy infantry group there. You get a cultural bonus of 60%. So whatever the stats are for the heavy infantry, which is probably attack, I guess, they'll get a 60% bonus because they're your cultural troop. So heavy infantry is obviously, I think, what's going on with Ireland. I think over in England it was the archers. I think mostly the archers, not the radio show, the actual people. I could be wrong about that, but I think they could be the ones who are the cultural benefit over there. Certainly archers were one of the traditional weapons that was used around about this time, which is why we were able to screw the French at Agincourt and things like that later on. Blah de blah. So you get this sort of cultural unit here. So if you can get enough cap, in this case 1,000, and you can hire them, then you're getting some very useful troops, I guess. Not just to have as a standing army, but also because they're pretty, bonused up compared to others. So I guess that's the advantage, but the immediate disadvantage, as we say, is you take a hit there. So that, I think, is kind of it on Retinues. This was kind of just to give an example, I suppose. I don't quite know now why I did it in this order, but I was trying to work out where all of these numbers came from, why that number has gone down, what this 11% number is, and blah blah blah, and it finally managed to work out how it was all kind of coming together, although I might have shagged it up. So I think what we're going to do is we'll look at starting, I think, a game as down in Barcelona. And I was trying to work out where. Let's change the colour coding, because Barcelona's got these 4 counties here. I was either going to start as him, or I was going to start as one of his counts. And the reason I was going to start as one of his counts, or i.e. one of his vassals, is because we then have this second thing here called factions. It's no good looking at it for Desmond because he's on his Todd, but the whole idea of factions is a newish concept as well, which is a bit hit or miss, I think, but that's the next one to go through. So at the moment this is a very short video, and it's not really done anything. It's just a taster or a tester to see if anyone's interested in me banging on about retinues and factions, and also on traits as well. Again, it's going to be like a newbies guide for newbies, because like I say, I haven't actually played with these retinues yet, so it could not be what I'm thinking it is, and it could all go Pete Tong, but I don't know if there's any demand for it. I don't necessarily just want to do another Let's Play, because I think it gets boring. People stop viewing it. So I'm going to maybe just stop this vid and post this, so it's not a great video, and just see if anyone is interested in me carrying on with it, and if they are, I will do so. So cheers.